doors, like, can y'all listen to us? And running up to people trying to hear us rap. Pretty much what happened is we were connected with this person that's in Detroit that was managing rap groups. His name was Marcel Mays. Mays had other groups like K Stone, and he had a group called Triplex. And so his original idea, because he was connected with my partner Riddler, which was a solo artist at the time. And Mazo had came up with this idea of putting a whole conglomerate of Detroit rappers together and calling it Detroit Band of Gangsters, hence the DBG'z.
Right.
So he tried, I guess the first attempt of the DBG'z was different groups trying to make it like a Detroit Wu-Tang thing, but it was like more like, we're going to put Triplex, we're going to put this other group, and we're going to put, like me and my brother was in the group, the DBG'z, and then my boy Riddler. Me and my brother had our own little duo. I think we was called Fresh Boys Incorporated or some shit like that. But the thing of it is, we knew Bob, we knew Riddler, and Riddler knew Mays. So we just hung around. And when they started trying to put that idea together, we would just show up at the studio because I knew where they was at because I had the inside connect. I go to the studio with my brother, and while we was there, we'd write a verse or something, and we'd get on a song, and it was all about this whole conglomerate, like you said, a Detroit version of what the Wu-Tang Clan was trying to do. Yeah. And I guess for some reason, they tried to shop that idea, and it didn't work. And then amongst that happening, a lot of other things happened where Marcel Mays had to make a decision on where he was going to go forward with. And it seemed like at that time, the only people that was loyal to him was my partner Riddler. And Riddler had to make a decision on who was going to be in this group that he wanted to push called DBG'z. Was we still going to go with Detroit Band of Gangsters, or we going to call it something else? We like DBG'z, but we didn't like Detroit Band of Gangsters. So Riddler came up with Dank Brewing Guns. He came up with that. He came up with that later after we got the deal with Buster Records. But pre that, they were figuring out who was actually going to be in the group because they knew the whole Band of Gangsters thing wasn't working and nobody was biting on that. So then they decided to make the group just a three or four man group. And they actually held auditions.
Oh, damn.
So, yeah, I ain't never even told nobody this story about this. So y'all getting some exclusive shit. So Marcel Mays and Riddler pretty much had an audition for the DBG'z in Riddler's basement. And I brought my brother with me, and we went to the basement, and I remember my brother Snipe was so nervous because he couldn't even say one lyric and shit. I was always confident in myself, and I could just, I could flow on the spot. It wasn't no problem because I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew I could do it good. My brother wasn't really an established writer at that time, so a lot of his raps I would have to write for him, and I write the raps for him and then tell him how to say it. But by the time we got to the audition, he froze. He couldn't do it. He was nervous. And I don't know if you've ever listened to the DBG'z whole album.
Yeah.
But we got a song called "Thick of Things," right?
Yeah.
And I wrote my brother's verse, which his name at that time, he went through a transition of names. First he started off as Doc G Rock. If you listen to "Thick of Things," he goes by the name of Doc G Rock in that song, but he morphed into the name Sniper. But if you listen to "Thick of Things," I wrote his verse, and I said, what I say? When I first got my opportunity to kick a verse, Doc G Rock wasn't accepted at first. Then he said, I was rapping and I was losing my breath like I was running 25 laps. I wrote all of that based upon his experience of that audition. Yeah. But then the whole point of the song is now you're in the thick of things because now you're in the DBG. So he ended up getting in with me because I guess it was just easiest to work with. And that's how I became Riddler, Sniper, and Fingers. That's how we